The Royal Commission, called after the catastrophic summer bushfires, has recommended giving the federal government more power to take charge during a national emergency. The inquiry has been scrutinising the response to the last bushfire season and how to better prepare for natural disasters in the future. Other recommendations: an all-hazard warning app and more aerial firefighting resources. Political reporter Anna Henderson has more.
We have seen this document arrive on our desks today, 1,000 pages in length and 80 recommendations, but a few of the key standouts. At the top is that recommendation about federal legislation. Just taking you into a bit of a detail of that one, because I think it's quite interesting. In terms of what it's suggesting is that the federal government should have the power through legislation to declare a state of emergency across the nation, but crucially, the power to take action without a state or territory request for assistance in clearly defined and limited circumstances. So I think that will be relatively controversial. It will be interesting to see what limits are put on that, but we know over the fire season there was a disconnect at times between what the federal and state governments wanted to see happen in terms of responses. More broadly, as you mentioned, the request to consider an increased or bolstered sovereign aerial firefighting fleet to get onto fires more quickly from the air and to fight those bigger bushfires that go through bushland that are very inaccessible for on-the-ground firefighting resources. Also, the need to deal with these issues relating to cross-border communications on fire fronts. So you don't have firefighting volunteers who can see each other between two state borders but can't communicate on their radios. And that question about what to do with the way we as Australians understand the risk that is likely to come to us of a bushfire or another natural disaster. So those rating systems that tell you how serious the fire danger day is, the request from the Royal Commission is that that be streamlined across the country so that people can understand it across state borders, and an all hazards national app that people can download that will tell them more information about what natural disasters might be in their area at any time. The Emergency Management Minister, David Littleproud, was speaking a short time ago.
The next steps from the federal government's perspective is that I'll be calling a ministerial council meeting of emergency service ministers from around the country to make sure that they understand the recommendations within this report, that we collectively work together around achieving them. The federal government will be looking at this report and, in fact, some of the recommendations, as early as next week at Cabinet. So the government does not intend to take a backward step on this. We intend to address these recommendations as quickly as we can. Our intent is possibly as early as next week, Cabinet may be in a position to approve recommendations and our response to those recommendations, particularly the 14 that pertain to the federal government.
And Anna, the report has only just been made public, but have we seen any political reaction so far to it?
Well, interestingly, we haven't even really seen the full gamut of the government's reaction to it, because even though the Emergency Management Minister has spoken with some initial comments there, we understand there'll be a more fulsome report from the federal government in response to this coming over the next week or so. Obviously, the government planning to move very quickly on this, with discussions in the Cabinet room next week in terms of how to act on some of the recommendations. We heard from the opposition leader, Anthony Albanese, before this was made public this morning, but he was calling on the government to take heed of everything the Royal Commission was going to put forward.
It was a devastating period, and I hope that the government adopts all recommendations from the Bushfire Royal Commission. They've had it now for a couple of days without releasing it. It'd be a start if they released it and if people got to examine the recommendations. We have got through this crisis better than most countries in terms of coronavirus because we've listened to the experts and listened to the science. We need to listen to the science and listen to the experts when it comes to our natural disasters.
So Labor, they're wanting to shift this debate into the policy space federally as well, talking about those issues in relation to climate change, future disasters, Ros, and the need to think about that wider concept. It's something that there have been a number of comments from ex-fire chiefs and people who have experience in this area saying they wanted to see some reference to Australia's emissions in this Royal Commission document, but that wasn't really part of the terms of reference, so it's unlikely to go to some of those specific elements about how the government could react in terms of climate change mitigation.
Anna, thank you.